This experience of mine happened in the summer of 1998. At that time, I had been divorced for 5 years. I was a single mother and I was living with my son. Single parents face many challenges, and I was no exception. After my divorce, I needed to take on the responsibility of caring for my son while dealing with other stressors. This was a time when I needed to be stronger than others and needed to create a stable living environment for myself and my son. I love my children deeply. My son is my strength and motivation, whether it is difficult in life or mentally exhausting. I not only want to provide for his material needs, but also give him love and care. Despite the many difficulties I have faced, I have never given up. I always believed that the future would be better if I persisted in my efforts. It was a hot weekend. My colleague and I often went out together. She was in a similar situation as me and was also a single mother. In the past year, we often rode bikes or hiked together. This time, my coworker suggested we go on a rafting experience. We were all very excited when we found out about it. We started planning the time and place. We simply packed our bags and then started our rafting trip. An hour later, we arrived at our destination and excitedly rented 2 rafting boats. Boating was a very enjoyable thing to do in this hot summer. We paddled, enjoying the cool water and the beautiful scenery, and the kids were very happy. Soon, we came to the main river. I put my feet in the water and felt the coolness of the current. We soon came to the first bend and the current suddenly became fast. We carefully controlled the direction and speed of the boat. We managed to avoid the rocks and branches in the river. We continued on through the river, enjoying the beautiful scenery along the way. After about an hour or so, we came across a more dangerous bend. My colleague and I felt some nervousness, but we trusted our skills. As the boat went through the bend, it unfortunately hit a rock underwater. I lost my balance and eventually I fell into the water. The water was moving faster and faster and I was trying to control my body. The boat was getting farther and farther away from me and I felt very scared and desperate. I was carried by the current into deeper water and the undertow began to wrap around me, gradually making it impossible for me to breathe properly. I struggled to get a breath of fresh air, but I could not reach the surface of the water. I used all my strength, hoping to surface, but all my efforts were to no avail. I began to lose consciousness and my whole body sank underwater. I felt the water around me gradually become still, and only the sound of my heartbeat echoed in the darkness. I began to remember my past experiences. I grew up as a strong child, always challenging myself. I grew up to be a single mother, living alone with my child. I worked twice as hard for the sake of my children. No one could appreciate this hard work for me. I now don't have the panic I had before, but only one idea: to give up the struggle and accept the fact. I thought it might be a relief. Suddenly, I felt someone grabbed my clothes and brought me to the surface of the water. I felt my body become very light, as if I had gained a new life. The sun shone on my face, making me feel very comfortable. The breeze blew across my skin, giving me a cool sensation. I noticed that a tree appeared in front of me, which was very tall. The breeze blew through the leaves, and they made a wonderful sound as if they were speaking to me. I felt like I was part of this tree, and that I was breathing with this tree here. Everything around me seems to be alive. The trees and flowers became more distinct. I felt like my vision was magnified and every detail became clear. Suddenly, a small bird flew over my head. I could hear its crisp song and feel its happy mood. I didn't need to turn around to see everything that was happening around me, because my vision had expanded to look anywhere I wanted. I felt that I had become part of the world, that I was one with it. At the same time, I could see what was happening below. My son crawled out of the water with difficulty. His clothes were soaked through. Thankfully, he didn't seem to be hurt. I could see my own body, which lay quietly under the water, no longer breathing. I did not feel sadness or pain now. Instead, I felt a wonderful sense of peace, as if I had said goodbye to my past life. When I looked at my son again, he was seeking help from others. I felt as if I had become him, and I could feel the fear and nervousness he was feeling. Fortunately, my son was wearing a life jacket, so he was not in danger. I have to find a way to save my mom. These were his most real thoughts at that time. Suddenly, a huge figure appeared in front of me. I felt an intense love, a feeling that is hard to put into words. I knew this was God. He smiled at me and then said, "My son, welcome home. I have seen how hard you have worked and given for your son, and I know all that you have gone through. You don't have to worry, because I will never leave you." God invited me for a walk in the garden. We walked and talked. I was struck by the beauty of the many strange creatures and plants that I saw here. Some of the creatures emitted a soft glow that made the whole heaven bright and mysterious. I saw a butterfly with particularly beautiful wings. Its wings were covered with spots of various colors. Under the sunlight, each color emitted a jewel-like glow. In addition to the creatures, I also saw some exotic plants. One of them was a tree whose trunk and leaves were glowing blue and purple. The leaves emitted a faint fragrance, making me feel as if I was in a fairy tale world. I felt very happy in this magical paradise. I felt true peace, as if the whole world had become gentle and beautiful. I knew that these wonderful sights would become memories that I would never forget. God took me into the depths of the garden. Sometimes, God would point out to me some special spots and tell me the stories and mysteries of the area. In a meadow, I saw a little rabbit that was busy nibbling on a blade of grass. God told me that this little rabbit was a symbol of joy. In another corner, I saw a cute little squirrel. It was hopping happily, as if it was looking for some treasure. God told me that this little squirrel represents good luck. Here, every creature and plant has its own story and symbolism, and together, they make up this wonderful paradise. It is also a delightful thing to walk in paradise. Finally, God asked me, "What do you want to choose next?" I understood that I needed to make a choice. To choose to stay or to go back. At this moment, I felt very torn inside, because I didn't know what to do. Staying in heaven, I could continue to enjoy this beauty and happiness, but I would lose the opportunity to be with my loved ones. I understand that this matter is completely up to me. No one is forcing me to make this or that choice, and no one is guiding me. God just silently waited for me and gave me time to think. I didn't know then what I should do. When I saw God smile, I suddenly felt a surge of strength. This strength gave me stronger courage and confidence. I knew that no matter what choice I made, God would always be with me, and His love would always be there for me. In the end, I decided to return to the real world. I knew that it was not an easy decision, but I believed that I had made the right choice. At the moment I turned to leave, I saw God smile and nod. I felt my soul being gently wrapped by an invisible force, which carried me slowly out of heaven. Then I felt as if I was flying, and the scenery around me began to become clearer and clearer. I saw blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds. I knew God was sending me back to Earth. Slowly, I began to feel the weight of my body. My soul was slowly merging with my body. A powerful energy passed through my body and made me feel my presence again. When I returned to my body, I felt full of power. I swam to the surface with all the strength I could muster. I spit out the silt in my mouth and took a deep breath. At this moment, my lungs were so sore that it felt worse than drowning. But I knew I needed to keep going, because my son needed me. I felt my strength growing, a strength that came from within me and from the blessing and love of God. I felt like every cell in my body was cheering me on and giving me strength. My breathing started to become steady. My lungs felt a little better. There was still some pain, but it was much better than earlier. I started to swim closer to the shore so I could grab the rocks with my hands. Finally, I managed to reach the shore. I felt my whole body trembling, but at the same time I also felt an inexplicable joy. I lay down on the shore with my whole body helpless. Just then, I heard a familiar voice. It was my son calling out to me. He and some tourists were running to me. I struggled to open my eyes, and my son's expression was full of worry. My son was hugging me and tears were streaming down his face. I gently patted his back and reassured him, "Mom is fine, don't worry." Finally, the administrator took me to the nearest hospital. In the hospital, the doctor checked my body. The doctor told me, "There is nothing serious, just need to rest for a few days." I am very grateful to those who have helped me. I thank them for their timely help, and I also thank God for His blessing and care. In the hospital, I felt the love of my son. He was always by my side. He was worried that I would get bored, so he kept talking to me. I lamented my good fortune to have such a loving son. I know that I must continue to fight for my son. Show him through my actions how strong and brave his mother is. To this day, I think back to this experience often. I thank God for this opportunity to be born again. I know I made the right choice. I proved that God and His love are real. I feel incredibly blessed that He has always been there for me.